Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie Patterson with NJ.com. Tomorrow is the 2020 election, and we are here to answer all your questions about casting your vote and, of course, what to expect on Election Day. Karin Price-Muller is here with us. She has written extensively on the mail-in ballot, on how Election Day is going to work. Karin, thanks so much for your time.
Hey, glad to be here.
You ready for tomorrow?
I'm always ready. Let's go vote. Let's get this election done.
Same. Absolutely. Let's dive right in. What do you do with your mail-in ballot at this point? Do you risk it and put it in the mail, or do you hand it off to someone tomorrow?
At this point, absolutely do not put it in the mail. While it's possible it could still get there in time, why take that chance? Take it to a ballot box or go to your county board of elections or go to your polling place to hand it in. Don't stick it in the mail. I just wouldn't take the chance.
And people tomorrow at the polling locations, at the county clerk offices, they're prepared for that tomorrow, right? They know folks are going to be handing them off.
You know what? The counties are completely prepared. So let's clarify. The county clerk is in charge of distributing the mail-in ballots. So if you didn't get one yet, that's where you would go. But when you want to turn it in, you have a choice of going to the Board of Elections or going to your polling place. So you know, they're all working in concert together, but you want to make sure you don't waste your time and go to the wrong place. And you can still use the ballot boxes tomorrow too.
Great point. How many ballots do you think have been sent in at this point?
Well, we know it's been more than 3.5 million that have been received as of 9 o'clock this morning by the counties across the state. And that's out of about 6 million ballots that were sent out. So it's a good number.
Excellent. And I see you guys are already commenting below us here. Send us your questions. We'll get to as many as we can. And if we don't get to it, we'll try to go back after this Q&A session is done and get to those questions as well. Thanks for sending those. Karin, here is the big question. When are we going to know the outcome of this election, especially, of course, the presidential election?
The real answer is that it depends. So for starters, in terms of when we will know when the New Jersey vote is counted and complete, it's actually going to take far longer than Election Day on Tuesday. But on Tuesday night, when the polls close at 8 o'clock, the counties are going to start to give out their preliminary numbers. And those are going to include mail-in ballots that have been counted through this whole time since they were able to start on October 24th. And it will not count the paper provisional ballots that you might cast in person. And there's a reason for that. Should we get into that at this point?
Why not?
Okay, so the paper provisional ballots cannot be counted until every mail-in ballot is counted. Now, the mail-ins can be counted all the way up until November 10th at 8 p.m. And there's a reason for this. So they're giving some extra time for those late mailers who might have, stuck it in the mail, and then they need to verify all of these ballots and count them. Then when they get to the provisional ballots, these are going to need extra attention because they want to make sure that somebody who cast the provisional ballot in person didn't already send in the mail-in ballot. So they're first counting up all the mail-in ballots. They're going to check off who voted, who didn't vote. So when they get to the provisionals, they'll know just to make sure nobody's trying to vote twice. That's why I feel very confident in this whole process. They really are very methodical in how they record every vote.
And sticking with the theme here, I've seen questions about who can vote in person and what that means in provisional ballots versus the voting machines.
Okay, so if you have not mailed in or handed in your mail-in ballot, you can vote in person, but only disabled people are going to be allowed to use a machine. And when they go, they're going to have to complete an attestation that says, I cannot complete a paper provisional ballot. Now, who can't complete a paper provisional ballot? They're going to take you at your word for it, but really we're looking at perhaps blind people or maybe somebody with Parkinson's or a very shaky hand who cannot complete a ballot. But, one of the elections officials said to me, if you have a handicap sticker because you have sciatica, that doesn't mean you can use a machine. So you're going to have to, under penalty of lying on a form, say that you cannot complete the provisional ballot. So everybody else will do the provisional ballot. And it's a paper ballot that's going to look very much like the mail-in ballot you received. The only main difference is that it's going to be counted later. It will be counted, but it'll be counted later. So I get that we all like to vote. Election day is a big thing. We want to, show our patriotism. We want to vote. But if you want to make sure that your ballot is counted earlier, use the mail-in ballot, not the provisional. But anybody can go in person if that's what you prefer.
And speaking of ballots being counted, I see a couple people asking already about tracking their ballot online through the NJ system. Some saying, it says it was counted but not accepted.
Let me explain that one. We wrote about this late last week, and it was something that was unclear to us even earlier in this whole process. So the counties, when they receive your ballot, they mark it off in the state system so it shows on your tracker that the ballot was received. But it will not tell you whether it was accepted or rejected. And there's a reason for this that I know a lot of people have found really exasperating and crazy. But the counties actually cannot put in that it's been accepted or rejected until November 18th. Now, November 18th is the date. Let's say you fill out your ballot and there's a problem with your signature. You have an opportunity, whether you forgot to sign your ballot or your signature doesn't match, you have an opportunity to cure your ballot, which means they will contact you within 24 hours, send you a form where you attest that, yes, this is really me and this is my signature. So voters have until November 18th to cure their ballot. So they don't allow any ballots that might still be cured to be marked as rejected until November 18th. So that's why everybody's got that kind of confusion. I know it's frustrating. I'd like to know if my ballot was accepted or rejected. But if it's rejected for a signature reason, they will reach out to you within 24 hours. If it was a different reason, like a flap was not sealed, the law does not allow you to fix that. You can only fix signature issues by law.
I feel like this is a good time to get into the ballot itself. What do you think?
Oh, let's go.
So what are some of the most common mistakes, or what are a few tips in filling this out that you must do?
Sure. Well, I hope that everyone has already filled theirs out, but I'm going to show you mine, Monmouth County. Honestly, I did not hand mine in yet, but that's because I wanted to have these props to explain. So it's the truth. It's the truth. It's going in tonight. So my ballot came with 2 different instruction sheets, and it came with the actual ballot, which is here, 2 sides, and note that some counties will actually have 2 pages to the actual ballot. Then you've got 2 different envelopes. One of them, we've been calling the smaller envelope. This is the envelope that has a flap, and inside the flap is where you're going to be signing. And this has a perforation. Let's just note right now, never rip the perforation off. Keep this ballot intact, this envelope intact, just like this. When you're finished, your ballot's going to go inside this, and you're going to put it inside the larger envelope, which, yes, it says postage paid, but we're saying don't mail it. Bring it to a ballot box or bring it in person. And you'll note that on the outside, my ballot has a window here because they want me to put a barcode through that, which will help them to scan it and register the ballot when it's handed in. And again, every county's ballot is a little bit different, but the instructions that they give are so incredibly clear. If you have a question, call your Board of Elections. They will help you get through whichever part you're unsure of on the ballot.
And I know in the past we've had folks ask, can they drop off ballots in the secure drop boxes or in person tomorrow for family members in their household that are also voting?
Sure. So you're allowed to bring your ballot plus 3 more ballots, and you would be called a bearer. And again, every ballot, every county is going to be different, but I don't know if you can see on this one here, this is a place where the bearer has to sign. So if you show up at a ballot box, and these things are recorded actually, but if you show up with a stack of ballots like this because you decided that you wanted to help out your neighbors, it's going to look a little bit fishy. You're only allowed to bring 3 plus your own.
Thanks, Karen. By the way, we're getting some great questions. We're going to try and answer as many as we can. Keep them coming. If you found this helpful, or if you'd like to support more things like this, please consider subscribing at NJ.com/supporter. All right. Someone asked, when is the last day we can vote?
Okay. November 3rd, tomorrow, is the last day that you can vote. If you have already sent in your mail-in ballot, and if you did it by mail, and if it's properly postmarked, they can receive it by November 10th. But if you try to cast a vote on the 4th, it's not going to count. You have to do it tomorrow by 8 p.m. And one important thing to note, if you happen to be at a polling place that has a longer line, if you're still in line at 8 o'clock and it's a little crowded, you will still be able to vote. They will stay open as long as it takes for every person online to vote. And the same thing for the ballot boxes. They're supposed to pick that up at 8 o'clock, but there's going to be a team of people from the county getting ready to collect those ballots. If there's a line of people putting ballots into the ballot box, they're not going to say, oh, it's 8 o'clock, we can't do it anymore. They will let the line finish and everybody will be able to vote.
I see someone else, Karen, asking, it sounds like they dropped this envelope with a perforated edge in the secure ballot drop box without the privacy envelope.
What I'm told, that's going to be a problem for you. And this might be something that you're not able to fix. What election officials have told me, and we realize that this is an issue with the ballot box, you figure, okay, it's going directly there, so I don't need to use the larger envelope. But the problem is the smaller envelope, because this is where you've signed, how do they know someone hasn't tampered with it? It may be too late for you, unfortunately. I would contact the county and ask.
What are the options, once more, to dropping off your ballot in person tomorrow?
Sure. You can go to a secure ballot box, and we have a list of those on NJ.com. And you can also find it if you just Google for the state has a list of all the counties and where all the counties' different locations are, both for polling places and for ballot boxes. You can go to the polling place. But if you go to the polling place, first of all, bring identification and also know that your polling place may not be the same as it was before. I used to vote in a nursing home. No one's voting in my nursing home anymore. We didn't for the primary. We're not this time around because of the coronavirus. So the counties have switched around the places. So you just have to go online and make sure you know what the correct polling place is. The other option is to go to your local board of elections and you hand it in person there.
Do you need to bring your ID with you as you're walking up to either of those locations, Karen?
If you go to the board of elections, you will need to have your ID. In the past, when I've gone to my polling place to vote in person, I've never had to show ID, but why not bring it just to be safe, just in case there's some sort of a dispute? You know, we don't expect things to, we expect things to go very smoothly in New Jersey tomorrow. Other states are a little bit more controversial, I guess, what's going on there. But yeah. I personally would bring it just to be safe, but I don't think you'll need it.
And, you know, I know on the news, we've been seeing lots of, you know, long lines, images of these long, overwhelming lines for people to vote. Any indication that that's what it will look like here tomorrow? Should people be prepared for lines?
So I think you really do need to be prepared for lines. Again, it's going to depend on where you live and exactly what your polling place is. But, you know, we know that every county has to have at least 50% of the polling capacity that it had prior to the coronavirus, but we don't really know what that's going to mean in terms of lines. You know, if you are planning to go to the Prudential Center, which can take in so many people, you might think, okay, they'll have the lines, you know, all set and it won't be so bad, or maybe it's going to be such an influx of people who decided to wait. Yeah, we really don't know, but I would say just whatever your plan is, have a plan and be prepared.
And you know what? I can't help but think, but seeing these lines, you know, in media, you're used to kind of waiting online to gain entry. Bringing a stool or a towel, something to sit on, so you're not sitting on the ground in a parking lot or on the grass. Throwing something like that.
I sure hope it's not going to be that way, but you want to be prepared, especially if it's hard for you to stand up, or if you're with an older relative who might have trouble being out for a long period of time. Just be prepared. I don't think you'll ever be sorry that you brought a little extra bottle of water with you or a chair with you. Yeah, just be prepared.
Absolutely. Another commenter asking, who counts the ballots?
Okay, so we have a combination of election workers hired by the counties. The National Guard is also helping. And I just, I don't know if the story actually ran today yet or not, or if it's going up later, but they've actually increased the number of National Guards people who are coming in to help in civilian clothing to process the ballots, to help to verify the signatures and all of that stuff. When I know a lot of people have wondered, oh, is it going to be all Democrats or is it all going to be Republicans? The time where it matters about the party is if there is a dispute over a ballot. If there's a signature that doesn't match, for example, the County Board of Elections, which is made up of 2 people from each party, they will all meet together and decide together if a ballot needs to be rejected or if a ballot needs to be cured or fixed, right? The signature that needs to be fixed.
I thought that was a great question.
What is a great question? Yeah.
Another question, do you have to fill in each selection for every race? Do you have to cast a vote in every race on your ballot for it to be approved and counted?
You don't. You don't. You can choose the races that you want to vote for, and you can leave blank the other ones. It won't invalidate your ballot. You can just, if you only want to vote for president or if you only want to vote for school board, that's all you have to do, and it will count.
Let's talk about tape. Now, I'm talking about Scotch tape. Can you tape the outer envelope closed, or is that going to create some issues?
Okay, so this is something new that we learned last week. We were originally told that, no, you cannot tape anything. But we have since been told that, take a look at this envelope. It's a messy envelope. This is the envelope I received my ballot in. I opened it up in a pretty sloppy way. I don't use a letter opener. It's kind of messy. If you were to have your outer ballot, your outer envelope, the one with the postmark on it, and it looks like this, and you try to tape it down to try to make it look neater, they're going to be able to tell that the ballot at some point was opened and ripped up, and you just tried to tape it down. That ballot is likely to be rejected. But if you have, here again is the outer ballot, and if the glue just isn't working, but if you tape it neatly like this, there are no rips, it doesn't look like anyone tampered with it, it will be accepted.
Okay.
So, prior they were saying that you should request a new ballot. Now they're saying, oh, if it's neat like this, you'll be fine.
Keep it neat.
Keep it neat.
I can tell people have some anxiety about lines tomorrow and waiting in lines. Someone else asking, do I have to wait in line if all I'm doing is handing off my ballot to a person?
Well, that's very interesting. We know when the ballot boxes first opened, there were lines in some counties for the ballot boxes. We saw in Monmouth County specifically, I don't know, people, there were maybe 20, 30 people deep, 50 people deep at some point to drop off. No, I'm lying to you. That was not at the ballot boxes. That was at the Board of Elections offices where they were trying to hand it in person.
Right.
We haven't specifically heard about ballot box lines, but I don't expect, how long is a line possibly going to be at a ballot box if there's really one in every municipality? A lot of people have handed them in already. 3.5 million have already handed them in. So I think a large majority of the people who are still outstanding are planning to vote in person, or these might be people who are not voting at all. Leave yourself time. Have a plan.
Another person asking, if I go to my polling place tomorrow, will they be able to give me information on tracking my ballot since I can't seem to find that information on the website?
The polling place is not the place to go for that. You want to create the account, and we've done stories on how to create the account, and it will tell you if it's been received or not. But if you've had trouble logging into this system, and some people have, let me give you just a couple of tips. You can use your driver's license number, your social security number, or your voter ID number. But here's where the problem is. When many people first registered to vote, they were not required to give their driver's license number or their social security number attached to that. So if you say, oh, I'm going to do it with the last 4 digits of my social, and it doesn't come up, and you're like, I've been voting for so many years, it's because they never had that on file because you registered to vote at a time when it wasn't required. So they have a place on that site where you can look up your voter ID number. Don't take it off of your voter registration card because some people's voter ID numbers have changed over time. Make sure to use the one that they give you on the website. And when you do that, keep in mind, some people have had problems because they mistook a 0 for the letter O or the number 1 for the capital letter I. So you might want to play around with those to make sure you're not making a mistake one way or the other. The only other way to find out is to go to your Board of Elections, not to your polling location.
Last question, Karin, is what if you see something suspicious or if someone's making you feel uncomfortable at a polling location tomorrow? Who do you talk to? Who do you call?
So there are several different voter hotlines, but the one from the Division of Elections, I'm going to read it here to make sure I don't get it wrong. 1877 NJ voter. So 1877 NJ VOTER. And you can report anything there. And look, drop me a line if you see something that's interesting. We want to know about it.
I'll hit on this one more time. Let's make sure we drive this home. Can people vote in person tomorrow?
Yes, you can vote in person, but you probably can't use a machine unless you're disabled. If you vote in person, it will be a paper provisional ballot that looks just like your mail-in ballot. If you feel like you need to be in person, that's fine. You can absolutely vote. As long as you're registered. Let's say that. Let's hope you're registered.
Karin, you want to add anything before we wrap this up tonight?
You know, I think from everything that I've learned going through this whole process, it's new to me too, right? It's new to all of us. I have a lot of confidence that it's going to be smooth. Now, in terms of how long it's going to take for us to know anything, really that depends on you, the voter, and election officials have been saying this. If you choose to vote with a paper provisional ballot, it will take that much longer for your vote to be counted, but every single vote will be counted no matter what. But still, given that we already have more than 3.5 million ballots that have been received, and that's as of 9 o'clock this morning, there's a very good chance that the margins will be such that when the polls close at 8 o'clock, the analysts who take a look at what the different counties are reporting, they'll probably be able to tell us if certain candidates have won in this state.
And you might see some states calling long before others.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's very confusing because every state does it differently. Some states, like New Jersey, have been able to count their ballots early. Florida, for example, is a swing state. A lot of people are talking about the importance of Florida in the presidential election. In Florida, they've been able to count for several weeks their ballots. So even though Florida is hotly contested, we're probably going to know about Florida soon after the polls close in Florida, which don't hold me to it. I think it's 7 o'clock. So we should, start to get early returns from Florida. They won't be final tallies, but it'll give us an idea. But then you have a state like Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is not allowed to start counting until tomorrow. So it's going to take a while before we know the results of Pennsylvania, which is another hotly contested state that is going to, probably contribute a lot to whether or not to see which candidate will get to 270 first. Let's put it that way.
Karin Price-Muller, thank you so much for all this great info. And we'll be doing this again, I'm sure, at some point this week with more information on how these ballots are getting counted and what the next steps are. We'll be with you all the way. You can check out NJ.com on Facebook, but more importantly, check out NJ.com/politics as well for updated voter information. A lot more coming from Karin, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, we'll be there. But whatever you do, vote. I don't care who you vote for, vote.
Absolutely. Thanks, Karin.
Thank you.